I love these guys.
Well, welcome to the Secondhand Lions. John Drennan here with my longtime friend and Lions fan, Bill Radford. Most of you know our journey started following the Lions in the 60s, and we met in college, and we've been talking about them ever since. So we created this podcast as a couple of fans that like talking about the Lions. So we hope you're enjoying this. And Bill, we just came off the second exhibition game or preseason game, whatever you want to call it. Lions won one over the Commanders. Winning or losing to me doesn't really matter in these games, but they had some good performances. And let me go out to you to talk about what you liked or saw or didn't like about the game.
Well, right off the bat, they started awfully with it might have been the first play or the second play from scrimmage where the offensive line just hung out the quarterback to dry and he got clobbered and fumbled, turned into a touchdown. So that was a bad start. And then the next time they had the ball, Dobbs threw an interception. So I'm thinking, oh man, this is not going well. But the defense was outstanding. And two guys that I would like to comment on is Derek Moore and DJ Wanham. They both constantly put pressure on the quarterback. They were very disruptive. And, you know, we've been talking about the necessity for another edge rusher to help out with Aidan Hutchinson. And man, it looks like we found maybe two of them because they were, now granted, they were playing against the backup offensive line of the Commanders, but they sure look good. And if they're anything like that, once the regular season starts, I think our hopes have been realized that the Lions have uh, an additional edge rusher. Dobbs righted himself and had a 50-yard touchdown run, which was outstanding. And Altmyer, the other quarterback, played pretty well. So it was a good win. And what was especially satisfying was the defense. So I thought cornerback DJ Reed, am I saying that right?
Yes.
He made a couple of really good plays as well. So I think we're looking up on the defensive side of the ball, and hopefully it'll carry through to the regular season.
Yeah, no doubt. I agree with all that, and especially, that Moore and Wanham did so well, and so when we add Hutch in with one of those guys, that that's looking very exciting. Another guy that played great on the defense is the rookie Gil Howard, sixth round pick.
Yes.
That guy is sneaky. He's disruptive, and so. Bill, I want to talk here. I want to quickly give my 53-man roster prediction. I'm going to go quick here, but anyone who's paying attention to the roster, I want to put myself out there. So here we go. On offense, 23 players, Jared Goff and Josh Dobbs at QB. Gibbs, Pacheco, Vaki, and Sailors at running back. So that's four running backs. St. Brown, JMO, Tesla, Dortch, and Trey Martin at receiver. That's only five receivers. Penei Sewell, Chris Mahogany, Juice Scruggs, Tate Ratledge, Blake Miller, Larry Borum, Miles Frazier, Seth McLaughlin, and that's all. That's eight on the offensive line. And then four at tight end. No, I'm sorry, three. Laporta, Wright, and Conklin. I'm counting here. Bear with me. And Meeks. So four tight ends. And that's 23 on offense. My big question marks on that one are, does Meeks make it as a fourth tight end? And do the Lions instead maybe add a sixth receiver or a fifth running back. On defense, I've got 27. On the line, Hutch, Wanham, and Moore, who we just talked about, along with Lacey, Hassanine, McNeil, Williams, Levi, however you say his last name, Gil Howard, and O'Neill. And linebackers, Campbell, Barnes, Rodriguez, Smith, Nowatzki, and either Bocce or Hunter. Not sure there. And then D-backs, DJ Reed, Rock Ya-Sin, Roger McCreary, Ennis Rakestraw, Khalil Dorsey, Nick Whiteside, Keith Abney, Clark, Maddox, Harper, and Isian. Now, when I count those up, I think it's 27, and if so, that's 50 plus three special, the kicker, the punter, and the snapper. So, 1 week from now, actually, Bill, the last game is Saturday, last preseason game, and the rosters need to be in by Sunday at 6 p.m. So next time we're on here, we'll know what the roster is. So those are my predictions, and about 4 big question marks in there for me. And I know you were going to talk about that first position. The key one is our quarterback battle. Obviously, we got a good one in Jared Goff, but then who's our backup going to be? And I know you got things to share on our 2 backups.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I'm hearing both. Um, a lot of people think Altmyer has played better than Dobbs, but Dobbs is a veteran, um, and he's been in the league for 10 years. It's really interesting to see all the teams he's played for. Um, I'll just give you a list here in a second, but he's played for. Um, Now you see, I had this all set up, and now I can't find it.
I know Minnesota's one of them, but yeah, it was several. I think Miami.
Well, he's played for 11 different. He's been moved 11 times, I think.
Wow.
But
I'll go ahead and look it up if you want to talk
so I
about it.
got it. He's
Okay.
played for the Steelers twice, 17 to 19, and then 20 to 21. Played for Jacksonville, the Browns, the Titans, the Cardinals, the Vikings, the 49ers, the Patriots, and now the Lions. And there were a couple of more teams that aren't listed here that he was on the practice squad. And I had those, but I don't right at the moment. So he's been around a while, and he's been a perennial backup or practice squad player since 2017. So that's 9 years that he's been in the league. And so obviously teams see his value in some way, but I'd just like to go ahead and talk about him a little bit. He was born in Alpharetta, Georgia. He's 31 years old. He went to the University of Tennessee, and he got a degree in aerospace engineering. And he had a 4.0 grade point. So he's a smart guy. Whether that translates to football intelligence is another thing, but he's considered one of the smartest players in the NFL. His nickname is Pastronaut because of his degree and the fact that he's a quarterback. He also has his pilot license, and he got married last year to Jocelyn Lara, who is a involved with football. I think most recently for Eastern Illinois, she was the executive assistant to the head coach. He has two cousins that are professional athletes. Parker Washington is a wide receiver for the Jaguars, and Tyler Tolbert is a player for the Kansas City Royals. Now, he's, as I said, he had a rough start of the game on Saturday, but he'd only been in camp a couple of weeks, so the potential there is that he hadn't quite learned the plays yet. Although that interception, I don't think the fumble he can be faulted for, but the interception was just a wild throw into the middle of the field, and that's never a good idea. Another thing about him that you probably don't notice as long as he's playing, but when he takes his helmet off, you notice he has no hair at all. He doesn't have hair on his head. He doesn't have eyebrows. He doesn't have eyelashes. He doesn't have any hair on his body because he has a disease called alopecia. And he started a fundraiser for people who are affected by that. I have a good friend who has alopecia. It's disconcerting for somebody, not as much as it used to be because the bald head is sort of a popular look now anyway. But he's a very smart guy, and I think a lot of people think that he's going to be the Lions' backup, even though a lot of people think that Luke Altmyer has played better in the preseason games than Dobbs. But again, the other thing that could happen is a team might put a quarterback on waivers that we like better than either of them. That's a possibility. I know you were talking about Minnesota possibly cutting ties to J.J. McCarthy, and would the Lions pick him up? Now, the other guy that's in the running is a rookie, Luke Altmyer. He played most recently for the University of Illinois. He was born in Starkville, Mississippi.
Hey, Bill, before you get into Luke, just a couple things I'm thinking about it. And by the way, I learned some things there about Dobbs, and one of the things we want to do on this podcast is help people learn as we learn as we go along here. But very interesting things about Dobbs. But I just want to say, um, I do think he'll be our number two because of his experience. And I give him a bit of a pass for that pick that you were talking about. It was a horrible throw, but again, he was new to the team and also maybe just thinking, okay, it's preseason. I'm going to take this risk, and it's one maybe he wouldn't take in a regular season game, although you do want to play in preseason like you would regular season. And so I don't fault him too much for those reasons. But yeah, what do you got on Luke Altmyer?
Well, Luke Altmyer is much younger. He just graduated from University of Illinois. He was born in Starkville, Mississippi, and he played his initial time in college at Ole Miss. Now, the interesting thing about Ole Miss and Starkville is where Mississippi State is. So he probably grew up a Mississippi State fan, and their arch rival is Ole Miss.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if he wanted to play for Mississippi State and was disappointed with that. But he played 2 years very sparingly. He got into 9 games total. He had a 1-0 record. He was 8 for 17, basically, uh, his second year, which isn't good. But then he transferred to the University of Illinois, and he started 44 games for them, or played in 44. He started 36 and had a record of 24 and 12. His completion percentage was just below 64%. He threw for 8,000 yards, and he had 60 touchdowns and 24 interceptions. So he had a pretty good record at the University of Illinois. And the Lions didn't draft him. They signed him as an undrafted free agent. Now, we were expecting Teddy Bridgewater to be the backup, but he has since retired, leaving the Lions with really a choice between the rookie and the veteran. And a lot of people think the rookie, Altmyer, has actually outplayed Dobbs so far. Of course, Dobbs has a lot more experience, and they may go with that, which you indicated you think is what's going to happen. And it might come down to this last game, their last preseason game coming up, as to whether or not Altmyer even makes the team. He could make the team and be if they decide to carry three quarterbacks, he could be the emergency third quarterback. And I think the rule for that is both the first and second team quarterbacks have to be injured for the third team quarterback to come in the game, unless I think he can come in the fourth quarter in a game that's out of hand. I don't know what the specific rules are for that, but it's very limited, their opportunity to play in a game, and it would be very limited in his practice snaps. He could probably run the scout team, which would get him some experience. But yeah, I think that there's a very good chance that it's going to be Dobbs, as you said. But it may come down to this last playoff game.
Yeah, I'm looking at
Sorry,
something here,
preseason
Bill.
game.
Yeah, I think you're right. Couple other things about those two guys. Lions roster lists Dobbs at 6'3", 216, and Altmyer 6'1", 213. So Dobbs a little bit of an edge there. I think Dobbs also is considered a little bit better runner, and we saw that against the Commanders. He broke that 50-yard option. He got good blocking, but you could see his recognition and speed. Um,
Yeah, he got great blocking on that play.
yeah, he
Kudos
did.
to the
Yeah,
wide out and the tight end on that play.
yeah, I think maybe you'd have been able to break through that hole for a couple of yards anyhow. So,
Maybe
um,
5 before I took a knee.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I was just looking, the practice squad, the active roster is 53 players, and there's 16-player practice squad. And it says up to, I'm reading this now, I've looked this up to 6 veteran players with an unlimited number of accrued professional seasons are permitted on the squad. What I wanted to look for here is I'm talking about this because one of them will likely be on the practice squad. And I thought I had seen something where a veteran like Dobbs has different rules for being poached off the practice squad than would a rookie. I don't know if that's true, but I think Dobbs would more likely be poached than Altmyer because if a team's looking for a quarterback, it's probably because they're concerned what happens if our starter goes down. And Dobbs would be more attractive at this point than Altmyer. So,
Hotel. There's a
um,
lady.
And I know I gave my 53 man and I gave Goff and Dobbs and just figured Altmyer goes to the practice squad. But thanks for sharing that. I certainly learned some things there. Bill, I want to comment on some injury updates and just kind of where things are at for the Lions and some transactions that have happened here in the month of August. And by the way, Bill, whenever we've talked about injuries, and the Lions have had more than their share the last 2 years, but this is the NFL. And right now, overall, the Lions are in pretty good shape at this point. I mean, they got guys out like um, Brian Branch and um, Rolder, the rookie, and Cade Mays, but none of these guys. They all look like they'll be back within a month or three. But there are teams in the NFL devastated. The Chicago Bears right now don't have a left tackle. Now, if I'm Caleb Williams, I'm not very excited about that because the left tackle's your protection. Um, the
How'd
Chargers,
that happen? Did
uh,
somebody get hurt?
combination of injuries and I think free agency choices, and they got a great left guard in Joe Tooney, all pro. The Chargers are badly banged up. I mentioned this last week. The Chiefs' offensive line is a mess. Now, a week from now, we're going to see all kinds of movement as teams have named. The Lions right now have close to 90. They're not at the. I counted 86 players right now in camp, not counting the ones in injured reserve, and those don't count toward your 90. So at least I don't think they do. But my point is, when they whittle that down to 53, there's going to be some good looking players available, whether it's on waivers or on the practice squad of the Lions. Well, there's 31 other teams with that. So all kinds of musical chairs will start happening, I predict, a week from or this coming Monday. Having
You see,
said that,
John, that's what confuses me about this decision not to have progressive cut down days.
right.
Because if they had progressive cut down days, you could see players that have been released, bring them into your team, uh, release guys of yours that are on the fringe, and see how they do in a week or so of practice and maybe a game. But as it is now, you have no opportunity to see them in an actual live game after the cuts.
Yeah, so I wonder what the decisions were around this change. Maybe they just thought a free for all would be kind of fun. We'll see. So the Lions' key injuries, of course, we know about Brian Branch coming back from his Achilles, and the talk is it'll be sooner than later. We might see him in a game in early October, but don't quote me on that. Kirby Joseph, his knee seems to remain a mystery, but Campbell always suggests he will be back sometime this year with no clue when that'll be. Cade Mays, we certainly want him back to anchor as our center. Looks like he's probably out till the seventh game, which is a game or seventh week rather, which will be the sixth Lions game because they've got a bye week ahead of that. Pacheco, our number two running back, it sounds like he might be back for the opener, but he won't have had a lot of practice and no preseason games with the injury he's coming off. Our third running back, Vaki, didn't play this last week. Everyone thought he was going to, but some kind of undisclosed reason. Um, but he's expected to be the number three back. Um, let's see, Blackshear, who was looking good as a back vying for that fourth or fifth running back. He's now out, I think, for the year after getting injured in the Commanders game. Damone Clark, the linebacker they picked up in free agency, he's out for an undisclosed period of time. Kendrick Law, the receiver from Kentucky, or I think he was Louisville, or no, Kentucky. He out for the season and has been since early training camp. Cedric Wilson, a receiver that I thought would come in as the number 5 receiver, a veteran, good on special teams. He got hurt against the Commanders and is out for an undisclosed period of time. And then Ben Barch, who came in as a free agent with a lot of injury history, but potentially a really good backup offensive lineman. He's been in concussion protocol and not sure when he'll come out of that. 2 guys that got hurt and have since been waived, Kyle Robichaud and Lauren Strickland. So running back and safety, they got waived because their injuries, combination of injuries and not making the team this year. Now, some activity. I don't know. Do you know the name Gus Hartwig?
No.
I didn't either till today, but I did a little research. He got signed August 25th, so 2 days ago. Folks, today is the 20, no, yesterday. Today's August 26th as we're doing this. So he got signed. He's a center and a veteran. So they brought him in to potentially be the backup center to Juice Scruggs while Cade Mays heals. And then Trey Williams, running back, he was brought in August 16th, and we saw him perform quite well against the Commanders. Another guy, Bill, do you know the name Iko Boy-Doe?
I do not.
Cornerback brought in August 16th to bring some competition to that cornerback room. I think he played fairly well against the Commanders. A couple other guys on August 24th, they brought in a running back, Roydell Williams, and a D-back, Jason Taylor. So these are all guys who are in camp that are all new to us. So with that, where do you want to go next? What do you got?
Well, finally found that list of teams, a complete list. I'll just run through it. Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Pittsburgh again, Cleveland, Tennessee, Arizona, Minnesota, San Francisco, New England, and then
Okay.
Detroit. His overall record as a starter is an abysmal 3-12. But he's been on a lot of bad teams. Tennessee,
Yeah.
Arizona, Cleveland to speak of. And his best record was with Minnesota in 2023. He was 2-2 as a starter. And
I remember learning about him, Bill, during one of those games because he impressed me a lot. I'm not sure who they were playing, but I remember thinking, man, who is this guy? And Bill, a lot of people might hear he's been with 10 teams. He must not be very good. But another way to look at it, he's a quarterback. They tend to get moved around if they're not a lock starter. And that means he's been around at least 10 different offensive, 10 different defenses, 10 different coaches and coordinators. So, in a lot of ways, he is more schooled than someone you might pick up who's just been with 1 or 2 teams.
yeah, that's true. His overall quarterback rating is kind of a middle of the road 78.3. Last year with New England, uh, he had very limited action, and it was 87.5. Overall, he has 17 touchdowns and 15 interceptions, which is not a good ratio. His average run is 4.7 yards, which is very good. So he has fumbled the ball 20 times and lost it 10, which he showed that against the Commanders on Saturday.
Yeah. I do think, as a rule, when quarterbacks fumble, the defense is going to recover the majority of times. So that's doesn't seem like a bad stat. But speaking of fumbles, Bill, I saw something today. Maybe you had seen this. The Lions last year only recovered 29 fumbles. And I'm not sure if that was their fumbles or fumbles in a game, but that's been the worst in maybe ever. That 30 was the record. Like they're only getting less than one out of three fumbles. So just had you
Oh, we
seen that?
talked about that last week. They went from kind of middle of the road turnovers to bottom third turnover takeaways.
Right.
So
Big part of that was the fumbles for sure. So Bill,
29, that's got to be recovering their own as well, because it seems to me in 17 games, if you've recovered the opponents 29 times, that's pretty good.
no, it was either, I think the data was on total fumbles in a game in the season, or if not, it was just their own fumbles. But I think it was both. I mean, 29 fumbles in 17 games seems like that'd be both teams.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I don't like coming on here with partial data, but there you go. But here's some real data, Bill. Um, I at least saw a report where Sean McVay is potential in communication with Aaron Donald about coming back to the Rams this season.
Don't they have enough?
Well, he's been away and maybe would love another Super Bowl ring, but that doesn't concern me at all because he's been out for what, 2 years? And,
Yes.
you just don't step back in and be at the quality you were 2 years prior, and he's 2 years older. But I just found that interesting.
Well,
Also,
all of his injuries have healed up.
yeah, that's true. Also, did you see the Lions and the NFL in general have introduced what's called their new rival uniforms?
I did. I like the Lions.
So I was listening to one of my favorite Lions podcasters, um, Matt Derry. He absolutely went off. He can't stand them. The reason is he says they just totally look like the Carolina Panthers. And they do kind of look like that. I don't mind them. And they're only going to wear them in the eighth game of the year against the Vikings. And apparently, this is something now every single team's got what's called the rival uniforms, and they wear them once in the season. And I forget which company is benefiting from that came up
Well,
with.
yeah, this is all for jersey sales and things related.
Right, right. But I'm thinking if you're going to do something like that, and again, I don't mind them and I don't think it's that big a deal, but I think if you're hiring designers and really getting into this, fans ought to be wowed. And according to a survey, they're not wowed. 15% really like them, 25% really hate them. Everybody else is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I liked them. I thought I liked those helmets.
I definitely like the helmets.
Uh,
There's not a lion helmet I don't like at this point,
it's they used to have do the throwback jerseys,
right?
and the Lions had the all silver helmet and the Honolulu blue and gray. It was very plain, but Barry
Yeah.
Sanders made it look good anyway.
And I always kind of liked the Lions throwback compared to some of the teams that would come out in those brown and yellow and all kinds of
Yeah, the
stuff.
Packers throwback is awful. The
Right,
worst was the Steelers in
right.
their bumblebee prison looking uniforms with the black and white, black and yellow stripes. I'd be embarrassed if I was them to go out on the field wearing those things.
Yeah. Well, Bill, to start to wrap up, I want to just give my optimistic 7 reasons why I think the Lions are A, going to be much improved, and B, definitely a Super Bowl contender, in spite of some of the experts coming out saying they are going to finish third in the North and they may not get to 10 wins. Here we go. Number one, coaching. I think you got a newly focused, powerfully focused Dan Campbell, and I think we got the real deal in Drew Petzing. I saw one so-called expert claiming Petzing may be a better offensive coordinator than Ben Johnson. Then they got Kafka, who's there as a passing coordinator with Petzing. I just think A, the quality of the coaches, and B, the focus. So number one. Number two, their offensive line's going to be not just better, but I think a lot better. Knock on wood, assuming injuries don't deplete it. But I think they enter this season with a much better offensive line. Third, the defensive line. You know, I, um, McNeil, Aleem McNeil, is apparently back to great shape. And apparently, Tyleik Williams has taken that second year jump. Those two guys are studs. Skylar Gilhoward brings an entirely new dimension. Levi Onwuzurike is back from his injuries, and he had a good game against Washington. And then the edge rushers, which we've talked about, it's a whole nother level this year. Number four is just their depth. They've got depth really everywhere. Now, right now, well, I'll get to the challenges, but their depth is really good across the board. Next is the schedule. As we've talked in the past, it's maybe the easiest schedule in the NFL. Next is just the teams and a overall organization focus, attitude, commitment after what happened last year. And the seventh reason is they got elite players. They have 5 players who you can legitimately call elite. On the offense, it's Gibbs, Sewell, St. Brown. On the defense, it's Campbell and Hutch. And then they got really, really good players, borderline elite, in Jared Goff, Jameson Williams, Brian Branch, and Kirby Joseph. Now, I know those last two are in the pup injury status right now, but we expect Branch back for sure, and hopefully Joseph. So those are my 7 reasons. Now, my concerns: offensive line depth right now is a challenge. We need to get Cade Mays back and maybe pick up another offensive lineman here next week. The quarterback status is a little bit questionable. And of course, if Goff goes down, then we got a whole nother problem. Running back depth at the moment's very questionable. Defensive back depth could be an issue, but I'm not too concerned about it. So those are my reasons and my outlook as we get closer to entering the real season. So what do you
Yeah,
guys?
I'm interested in who's picking Lions third in the division because I've seen predictions the Lions are going to go 14-3 and have the
Right?
best record in the NFC. So they're all over the map with the Lions.
Yes, they are, and I've seen those as well, and I like that 14 wins.
Yeah, I would take that right now.
Well, Bill, I've been talking with I've got a brother who lives in New Orleans. He's a Lions fan and a Saints fan. Hope to have him on the week before the Saints game, and got a good friend here in New England who's a big Buffalo Bills fan. Hope to have him on the week of, that Buffalo week's going to be extra special because the Bills are opening the new stadium. But can you believe the yak that the fans are totally pissed because there's seating in that stadium where you absolutely can't see the field? Like, How's that
How,
happen?
how do you how do you do that with a new stadium?
I don't know, but I know it's going to be talked about on that night.
Well, I've been having a little conversation on this NFC North trash talk on Facebook, and they rated the quarterbacks, and I put my rating in was I said Williams is probably fourth, third at best, and I got some heat for that. Then, yeah, the one guy said I should stick to bird watching.
Does
Then
he mean Cardinals and Ravens and Seahawks?
I don't think so. But then I saw in a completely different thread um, the quarterback standings, basically, for those four quarterbacks and the overall quarterback rating. Goff is first with 100. Love is second with 99. Kyler Murray is third with 92 or 3. And then Caleb Williams is in the 80s. So I connected that to the guy that told me to do bird watching. So it's kind of fun. NFC trash talking. Packers really get raked over the coals from Bears
Yeah.
fans and vice versa in that thing.
Yeah. I think the Packers get raked by all three rivals. But, you know, I've always been higher on Williams than you, but not high enough to put him ahead of Goff or Love at this point. Talent-wise, yes, but he's just not there yet.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I don't think they're going to have this. I don't think they're going to have the same record as last year. The opponents are tougher, um, and they won a lot of games last year, last minute. A lot of people would say, luckily, even if they won two by total luck, which I think they did, that would make them 9-8.
Agreed, and especially they don't have a left tackle right now. I mean, that's a big problem. And there
Yeah.
aren't good ones out there to go grab. You know, are they going to bring in, um, say, I'm not even Taylor Decker? You know, Ben Johnson knows Taylor Decker, but the fact Decker still isn't signed says they're probably not doing that. And if they do, you know, good luck Decker blocking Hutch.
Well, out of all the teams in the NFC North, the team that would be most hurt by lack of a left tackle is the Lions because those other three quarterbacks are very mobile.
True.
Um, Goff is a pure pocket passer, but he knows how to get rid of the ball quick. So
He sure does. And knock on wood, we got Penei Sewell, so he's the
that's
best
right.
in the game at left tackle. So, all right, buddy, let's wrap this
Okay.
one up. We'll be back next Wednesday, following with a lot to talk about for sure. So,
All right. Bye, everyone. Be
thanks,
safe.
everyone. See you next time.